Hello and welcome to the Old Man Orange Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Rain Dunnigan.
And we're going back to the 90s, the good old days. I got the N64 hat on to remind me what it would have been like to watch Scooby Doo on Zombie Island for the first time on glorious VHS. Did you have this one as a kid?
I didn't own it. It was one of those movies that would always come on like Cartoon Network. Maybe other channels, but definitely came on Cartoon Network around Halloween because there's always like some kind of Scooby-Doo marathon on around Halloween that time, in which we're actually, unless something big pops up or something like that, we're going to try and do like a horror movie, whether it be a kid's horror movie or an adult horror movie throughout the month. So we're going to be trying to pick weird ones. But in this, we haven't done a Scooby-Doo thing, and I don't know if we ever did a Scooby-Doo thing on the show. And I know that this is like a big staple of a lot of kids' childhoods in the 90s.
Well, you know what it really is this just comes from the good old 90s, like, you know, one side or the other choices. And I feel like, you know, because in the 90s, you were either a Cartoon Network kid or you were a Nickelodeon kid. You almost couldn't really be both. Just like you couldn't just like WCW and WWF, you know, Biggie and Tupac. Life just kept making you make choices.
Nintendo or Sega.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. You know. Oh, I got a 3DO. Oh, you fucking rich bastard. Think you're better than us, Mr. EA's bitch? Well, you got better version of Road Rash on there? Well, yeah, I do, yeah. I'm going to give you some fucking Road Rash.
Just does the Marv thing from like Sin City. We're just dragging the guy outside the door. Yeah. I was one of those kids who was in the middle. I think there are those people who just, I'm not trying to besmirch, or I think there are those kids like, hey man, choose your side. I'm like, well, we have fucking both. We have the package. We can watch both, right? So, I was one of those. I'll be honest. I think I was kind of like, I probably dabbled in both, but as time went on, probably more Cartoon Network, because Nickelodeon just kind of played like kids game shows, kid sitcoms, and in time Cartoon Network did more Toonami and that kind of shit and did more anime. So I think I probably stuck with that longer as time went on.
Yeah, you know, well, it's just one of those ones. I don't know why. It
actually aged its audience. I mean, sorry.
I just one of those ones. There's very few things I ever watched off Nickelodeon, and mostly the only things I ever watched were the live action stuff like Kenan and Kel, or Legend of the Hidden Temple, all that, like all that kind of stuff. Guts, I like those ones, but for some reason, I think it's, you know what it was, is when I was a kid, I didn't like weird animation. I can appreciate weird animation when I got older, but when I was a kid, I never liked like the Nickelodeon, like where the characters look very deformed and almost kind of creepy looking. Like when I thought of animation, what I really liked, I liked when everything looked real, in a sense, like Batman, X-Men, Johnny Quest, Scooby Doo.
Real Adventures of Johnny Quest. That's why.
Because Real Adventures of Johnny Quest. I want to look like a man, not some deformed looking toddler running around with his diaper on. Like, you know, I need a real show, something I can get behind, you know. It's one thing if it's like cartoon animals, but I think what's like, yeah, so something about like the Nickelodeon animation as a kid, it just was like one of those ones, like it was almost like a turn off. Like, as I said, I can appreciate weird animation nowadays, but as a child, it's like, I don't know. I was used to that Fox Kids / Cartoon Network era.
Well, I guess for the longest time, all the Nickelodeon shows were either comedies or like sitcoms or game shows. So, and it took Cartoon Network a while to get there, but most of the cartoon action shows they had was stuff like from the 80s and the 70s or 60s even. But then as time went on, they started doing more of the, you know, Toonami and their own original shit. And then I think Nickelodeon's first like legitimate like action cartoon was Avatar, if I'm thinking about it, Avatar: The Last Airbender. So, but by then I was already off it. I wasn't really watching by that point. But something that was on Cartoon Network a lot, because I mean, I think something we kind of talked about before a few times on the show is, and it's, don't take it as like a Zoomers this day and age, they don't get it. But I think when we were kids, because now you got the options to watch whatever you want, really, whenever you want. When you're a kid, you just kind of like, well, what's on? Well, it's 9:00, so looks like Nick at Night is on. So, you know, as a kid, since nothing was on, you're like, okay, I guess I'm watching I Love Lucy, you know, but or Boston Public.
Yeah.
Titus is over, so I'm watching Boston Public now.
It is now my new favorite show. Why? Because it took that 9 o'clock slot.
Exactly. So, and that kind of worked with old cartoons. I found myself kind of like actually liking old things like Flintstones and all that kind of stuff as a kid. I think there's the stuff that legitimately does have a seal of quality to it, say something like Looney Tunes and old Warner Brothers animation. But then there's the stuff that, like, I mean, it might be nostalgic, and I think some of it is good in parts, but really, I think if we put on probably like an episode of the Flintstones right now, I bet it would probably feel like a slog to get through for the most part.
Really? No, I still think I still like Flintstones quite a bit. I think that's one of those. I think 60s cartoons actually hold up pretty strong. It's 70s and 80s cartoons. I think that's kind of the weaker decades. And I'm not saying there's not stuff I appreciate from there, but and we mentioned on the show before, but like when you'd be kind of forced to wait for your next show to appear, and you had to watch the Super Friends, which has should be like everything I love, but for some reason, as like a 6-year-old kid, I'd watch that and be like, oh, God, there's just no struggle in this show. They always win. Like, it's like, what's the point? Like everybody's got to be fucking buddies. Like, why do we have to be buddies? You know what I mean? Like, it's just like that kind of stuff. And I know that's like that very like 70s. Come on, gang. As long as we do things together, we can accomplish everything. We got to put a right positive mindset into the children's eyes. Like the little Billy just saw a Taxi Driver last night, and he's not too sure how to like relate to the world anymore. Batman, how about you give him a positive message? Oh, well, Robin, you take over.
He's been reading Catcher in the Rye. We don't need another one of these happening. All right, just talk to him. He's talking about the phonies and shit. No, but like, I think, it's funny because we're talking about Scooby Doo. Because I mean, even though I look back on, I haven't seen the Flintstones since I was a kid, but I just remember, a lot of it was just comfort food as a kid, right? It's animated. It's, it's on at this time, just kind of a thing of comfort. But at the same time, there's some where I think, like, I don't even know if the original Scooby Doo would hold up. I think I like the aesthetic, and I kind of I love the concept, but I'm not even sure if that would hold up if I was to put that on and watch it again. At the exact same time, though, I still think the concept alone is a lot of things you can do with, and I think there's a reason that stuck around. So much so that like Scooby Doo went to influence like everything that wasn't like anything that had like a human cast and that was like more like normal proportions in Hanna-Barbera had to have a Scooby-Doo kind of thing. They had to have the dopey stoner in the stoner-esque character, but instead of like a dog, it's a car,
Yeah.
Instead of a dog, it's a shark,
Yeah, exactly. There's all those ones like that. Well, it's like you got like Jabberjaw, you got Josie and the Pussycats, you got the Chin Chin Clan or whatever, like the one where it was like what was it called?
It's probably progressive for the time.
Yeah, well, I think it's literally one of those ones. It's like Hong Kong Phooey. You know what I mean? Like, what is that show? Well, it's a show about where Scatman Crothers is a dog who's also a janitor, and he's black, but he fights crime. But he fights crime, kids. Don't worry. He jumps into his janitor's closet, and next thing you know, he's out in a gi, and he's kicking ass and taking names. It's literally a blaxploitation mix of kung fu. Like, you just didn't really realize that all at the same time when you were watching it when you're like 6.
That's sometimes the interesting things. Well, sometimes they'll like, even like going back to Flintstones, like they'll make a reference of like a celebrity and they'll just change the celebrity's name to like Rock something, or like
Rock Hudson. Dude, that's what the guy's name is. Oh, sorry. Get more clever with that, fucking Bob.
Or like, it's Frank Sinatra Rock or whatever. It'd be like, and then like, they'll make some reference to something that happened like in 1962. Like, I guess I had to be there for that one. But
yeah.
But then like something like, I think there's a reason why. I think just the look of it, the theme song, the reason why Scooby Doo has stuck around as long as it has, to the point of where we've had not just that Velma show, which I've never seen, but aside from that, there's also been other like adult versions of it. Like there is that edgy like DC like Scooby Doo Apocalypse comic that came out like some years back, and something that makes people just want to keep on going back to it. Like that. I think the James Gunn, like the first Scooby Doo movie, James Gunn wrote it to be an R-rated adult comedy, but they went and changed it took the same story but just made it PG. Like that's what I've heard. I don't know how true that is, but that's what I've heard.
Yeah, I mean, like that's one of those ones I do kind of get it. Like that feels like you
First out the door.
Yeah, you can't make the very first live action movie, by the way, if we're gonna go something experimental and weird. You know what I mean? Like you got to sort of kind of go a traditional route, and get that going. And Scooby Doo definitely is that one that's like carried on for a long time. It's one of those like Hanna-Barbera ones that there's a Scooby Doo in every decade since the '60s. Like there's never a time when there wasn't at least something, whether it be a movie, TV show, what have you, and it kept carrying on. And the interesting thing is that Scooby-Doo and Zombie Island, coming to this one right here, this was kind of like the big Scooby-Doo sort of like, I guess you'd say comeback, because it's not saying that Scooby-Doo kind of dipped off, but like, Scooby-Doo was there in the 80s, and I love the 80s era Scooby-Doo, like the, Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf and the Ghoul School. Like, I think because when I was a kid, I watched The Living Daylights, have all those ones. I like because the monsters were real. That was my biggest thing too, is like, even though I like the old 60s show and, like into the 70s and whatnot, I always felt like as a kid, you're just like, it'd be cool if those monsters were actually real once in a while. Like it's like one of those ones like, here, let me tell you, I know you got like 150 episodes right here, but one thing you've been missing this whole time is that the monsters should be real. Like at least at some point, you know what I mean? Put a spin on it. And in the 80s, that's what I think what made it so good is that they finally made the monsters real and so on like that. And that was what Scooby and Shaggy were dealing with.
Well, it's also, like I remember as a kid, I'd watch like because I really, I watched it a lot back when I was on Cartoon Network, back when I was in like elementary school and all that. And every once in a while, there might be a minute, maybe a minute, where you trick yourself into thinking, is it fucking real this time? Is it real? Oh no, of course it's old man Jenkins. Fuck me, And one thing you could always tell is if like. One of the biggest giveaways I remember if who the person was, if they were the person who got attacked, like if they were the person that was found, that was the person that did it majority of the time. At least that's how I remember it, like, well, couldn't be him because he was the first one to get attacked. It's like, oh, but you see, then, there's a trap door here or some shit like that, and then going off the Scooby Doo and the 13 Ghosts, is that what that one was? The one with Vincent Price is basically their Zordon. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the 80s shows, which that one's a great one.
Well, I remember that one because I remember it was also, that's kind of like, I want to say, because like Fred and Velma fucked off. And it was like, I think it was, I don't know if Scrappy was there. It may have been Scrappy.
Yeah, Scrappy. It's Scrappy's in that one.
It was Shaggy, Scooby, Scrappy. I think there's a kid who's also their sidekick.
Yeah, there's like the Chinese kid because it's at that time of like we need to make it this progressive. Put a Chinese kid in there. You know what I mean? Make him do kung fu.
Round. Yeah. Get her short round in there. Yeah, we'll call it good. And then like and then they also had occasionally, he wasn't in every episode, but occasionally, like I don't remember his name, like Derpy Doo, like Scooby Doo's inbred cousin that was gray or whatever. Yeah. He popped in once in a while.
Yeah, exactly. Just to add even more like retardism to it.
If you thought Scooby was fucking stupid, just wait. We got his cousin from Arkansas rolling in. Okay.
Yeah, he's even gray like a Confederate, like a Confederate soldier.
Very on theme. Don't bring up politics around him. It's not really his fault. It's literally, well, it's A, the way he was brought up. B, I mean,
it's all he knows.
He just it's kind of like if Billy Bob Thornton from Sling Blade kind of grew up on the wrong side of the river. It's kind of like that. So
he didn't get his potato fries.
No, he never got him.
No, he never did. Yeah. But yeah, like 13 Ghosts was just, I think the coolest thing about that show, it's not the most, you go back and watch it and it's kind of, has some weird stuff like Derpy Doo and all that stuff in there. But like, I think still at the end of the day, when things started getting real, I think that's what started making Scooby Doo really a big deal. Like it started to add like, okay, now the stakes are getting higher. It feels like there's actually real danger and so on like that. And kind of a bummer is that nowadays, a lot of the Scooby Doo movies, I'll watch one of the Scooby Doo movies every once in a while, but they fall back to doing that that thing that you see with a lot of modern products nowadays where they go, you know what, let's skip all the middle stuff that actually advanced the show and let's just go straight back to the original version. Let's New Super Mario Bros. This shit, you know? Like, that's the only thing about sometimes a lot of the new Scooby Doo stuff is like they'll get rid of, not new Scooby Doo as in that show, but they'll skip out, like they go back to that old fashioned, everything's in a mask. There's never been a real monster. None of this. And it's like, to me, I feels like as a fan watching it like my entire life and watching literally 40 plus years of it, you kind of go like, that feels like you've just now stepped back like 3 steps and from all this progress that we just did.
I haven't seen any actual I haven't like seen a full on Scooby Doo cartoon probably since like one of these. Cause after a while they started doing like a bunch of these, like Zombie Island's the first one to go straight to video, but they had a couple of these straight to video movies for a while, which is how it's continuing. They started a new one up, and then however many new ones after that, I don't know. But
they did have the original straight to video movies like Reluctant Werewolf and things like that back in the day. But this is like the first of like the, I guess you would say, sort of the modern Scooby Doo incarnation and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I think really what makes Zombie Island is it's like it takes like, okay, here's Scooby Doo almost like throughout time. It's Scooby and Shaggy, so that they forgot that they actually saw real stuff before. I guess I don't know, like.
Well, I think they just were like, no one remembers 13 Ghosts. I mean, I know they had a straight-to-video movie on it a few years ago, but they just kind of do this thing where, like, nobody remembers that ever happening. That's a spin-off show. We don't expect the people to, when they think Scooby-Doo, they think the original gang, they think this, they think that. They're not going to remember all the spin-off shit. And then, along with that, though, it is kind of like, just going off to what you said for a second, just kind of like the basics ones. I haven't seen any of those new ones. I did know for a minute they had kind of like a return of the special guest one, but it was a show that focused on like special guest, like you know, because there was one with the Flash. I think there was one with Adam West. I remember seeing ads for it or something.
Yeah, I think they did bring that one back in a way, and then they had sort of modern guests and so on like that. But yeah, okay, going back into Scooby Doo and getting up to Zombie Island and all the straight to video stuff. And I'm saying this, there is good Scooby Doo straight to video stuff in the recent era. Like there has been some ones I've really enjoyed. I really like the Kiss one. Now, granted, probably because it had Kiss in it too, but that had that classic like Scooby Doo meets a celebrity guest kind of thing. And then it had sort of that Phantom of the Park Kiss feel to it. And there's been some other just neat ones throughout time. And I've watched even the ones like there was a 13's Ghost one where it's supposed to conclude it all together. I don't know. I felt like it's almost like they had a completely different. They were missing the right team to kind of mix that. It was just kind of lackluster. It still felt like. And there's even a Zombie Island 2, and it was kind of okay. And you know, it wasn't up to par. Like the thing is Scooby Doo on Zombie Island that falls into that glorious like second golden age of animation of the 90s, where just every studio, doesn't matter who it was, you know, Warner Brothers, you know, Fox, Disney, you know, everybody was turning out stuff like at the most highest caliber and so on. And, you know, just the ones that follow right after Zombie Island, because like the next one, I think there's actually one before that, but there's like the Witch's Ghost one that's got the Hex Girls in it. That one's super good too.
We were actually debating whether we should do Zombie Island or the Ghost one, and something they actually kind of follow a similar pattern, because I remembered the twist of the witch one, and that one's even more Halloween themed. Mm-hmm. But I totally forgot about the twist of this movie. Like I remember this is a movie I watched a lot. Like I said, this would come on, like I didn't own it, but this is a movie that would come on a lot on Halloween when I was in elementary school. And it was also one that like sometimes a kid would bring it to class around that time or something like that, you know? Mm-hmm. So it's one of those movies, as I was watching it, it was coming back to me, but I totally forgot about like the spoilers ahead, folks, but I totally forgot about the cat people that comes in. And for some reason, maybe it's because like the actual movie that went to theaters, which would only come out really a handful of years later, is tropical. I, for some reason, remember this movie being like tropical themed. Mm-hmm. But like, oh, it's Louisiana themed. I totally forgot about that. And I totally forgot about the werecat people and all these, and how like the zombies are actually good. Like I kind of, we're not good, at least coincidental, like not going after them, going after the cat people, you know?
Mm-hmm. No. There's a lot just going on in this one. Now, granted, like I've probably watched this movie at least once every 3 to 4 years ever since it's come out for sure. It's kind of one of my go-tos for Scooby Doo stuff. And as I said, I still probably every year I at least watch a couple Scooby Doo movies of some kind, some caliber, and so on. Just as a kid, me and Kyle were obsessed with Scooby Doo, like beyond like so much. I mean, we were just obsessed with Hanna-Barbera in general. Kyle was so obsessed with Hanna-Barbera, he thought it was a girl that made all that stuff. He's like, man, I bet you she's really hot. And I told him, I'm like, dude, it's two old dudes that drew Tom and Jerry.
It does sound like a name of a hot chick, like Hanna-Barbera, just like. Dude, did Hanna-Barbera ask you out? Oh, fuck yeah, dude.
You show up, it's like, no, how was that date? It was terrible. It was just two old men that were sitting in bathrobes and nothing else on and showing me pictures of Tom and Jerry and then saying they were going to whip out their Tom and Jerry and watch them chase each other around the house.
I tried running away. But I was running away. The background kept on repeating. They have like 15 couches in that one house. How the fuck does that happen?
I couldn't make it out, man. I was just going. I saw the door, but I just could never reach it.
There's that period, and like we'll actually get back onto the main movie itself, but rather than just the legacy of Hanna-Barbera and Scooby Doo, I noticed like when Hanna-Barbera, even though they figured out how to do it on the cheap and make it all happen and like crank these fucking things out, there'll be all these old school Warner Brothers and Disney guys going like, these fuckers. They're just reusing assets. They probably didn't use the word assets at the time, but they're reusing the same shit. Walt would not let that stand. Walt would not let that. Yeah, Walt also wouldn't let us go home. Well, that's beside the point.
That's why I remember that one time that Walt threw us a party after Snow White, and then everybody just got extraordinarily hammered and just started doing drugs and fucking everywhere and destroying the entire hotel. Yeah, Walt said never again.
And then from there on in, anytime we showed up to Walt's party, he'd lock the doors from the outside and throw a knife down in the middle of the room, just pick it up. Shit, Walt doesn't fuck around. This is how Walt parties. All right.
Well, it's kind of the funny thing too, because it's like Hanna-Barbera is not the company that invented the cheap animation, because there's some of that stuff that you watch from the 40s where it's like, hey, the TV. Yeah. Well, the TV is invented. We need something there. Who can draw? And there's that one show. It's I think it's something, the rabbit, and it's the original one, but it's just that kind of animation where the rabbit slides in the frame and is I am a rabbit.
They have the mouth moving, where it's someone's mouth.
That's it. And then it literally just shuffles off. I mean, makes South Park look like it's fantastic animation, by this standard. But I felt like Hanna-Barbera was the one who was here, we can do the simpler animation, but we can make it still look really good. I think that's what they sort of figured out. They figured out how to we can reuse stuff, we can have just certain kind of things, backgrounds and stuff that kind of work, but the animation will still look good and the storytelling will be there. And, I think that's it.
Yeah. No, that's a good point right there. But this movie, something that's interesting about it is I feel like sometimes they try and do too much setup when something's come back after a while, and that's something I think that's been pretty good about Scooby-Doo for the most part. At least I haven't seen every iteration, but they come in who these people are, what it is, something even though it's not that great of a movie, the first live action Scooby-Doo, when it opens up, it's kind of who the gang is. We don't need to do that. How'd they meet? How'd this all happen? They're there. Yeah. They're good to go,
It's not like the origin story where well, they'll get together at the end. We'll introduce one member of each movie.
Yeah, some bullshit like that, Or it's or even this, it's not even kind of a reimagining. It's just they're in the middle of it and they're kind of speaking on this. I think that's also one of the things they speak on the formula of Scooby-Doo. They even have that song. That song's very easy to get stuck in your head. The ghost is here and it's fake. That song,
Yeah, well, they got it's got a good soundtrack too. Because that was the other thing. There's all these Scooby-Doo's always had a good soundtrack. Even the '60s one has great songs in there. But this movie here, and especially then once again the Witch's Ghost one, they both have extremely good soundtracks. Well soundtracks has in 3 songs, but.
This one, I'm not saying it's as good or as heavy, but the part when they're running away from all the zombies, in the beginning of the 3rd act, that actually sounds like they're trying to do their best, version of Iron Maiden. Get away as far with as they could,
It's like Iron Maiden mixed with like Sum 41 or something like that.
Kind of, yeah.
'Cause it's got that pop punk kind of feel. Because that's what kind of happened as Scooby Doo went on, which actually kind of works. But you like, and like the 2000 show, I think it's What's New Scooby Doo. Like the songs in there, they had a total like pop punk thing going on with like a lot of the stuff, which is still a really good soundtrack on that one too.
Well, even like this one, because when it goes on for like the first, like say, it's very by the numbers Scooby Doo. Like it's calling out. Like, they have a little bit of the band getting back together, and it's calling out the things that Scooby Doo's been coming known for. But it's like, okay, the stoner and the dog are going to shamble and bump around and get into shenanigans. Everybody else is just going to move the plot forward. But then once shit gets bad, it gets really bad. Like it's one of those things, like it's like not as fucked up as other things, but for like Scooby-Doo, like when they have the flashback to how the settlers die and they start bringing in what's implied when like all the zombies come up, and because you look at the zombies, it's just not, it's just pirates or it's just Confederates. There's tourists, there's mobsters, there's flappers, there's all like, they were like luring people here for years and killing them. So it's just one of those things of like, oh, these guys were next. The Mystery Machine gang was next. That's all there is to it.
Well, that's the thing, is like this storyline is extremely adult. I mean, it's literally like a storyline of a rated R movie. That's kind of like what it is. Like it's serious as all can be. That's why it's funny, because it's like you look at this and you even compare it to like that live action movie. That live action movie seems so kiddie compared to this. And I'm still nostalgic for the live action movie for what it is. It's not really great, but it's one of those ones where it's like, the first attempt for a live action one, could have been worse.
Yeah, and it's one of those things like I haven't seen it in so long, so I don't really remember it that well. I just remember when I did see it, I was like, yeah. But it's one of those. It's also one of those things with this, because as you're watching it, it does. I was watching it, I was enjoying it, but it was more of like comfort food. Like I wasn't like, oh my god, the writing is so witty. Oh my god, it's so funny. It was just like, it's comfort food. It's Scooby Doo. I like it, sure. But then when we get to the twist, I'm like, oh, I forgot about this part. Oh, fuck, I definitely forgot about this part. Like I thought I remember this movie very well, but clearly not.
I want to say this before we even get farther. I like when it starts off and it's like, okay, the gang's broken up and you see where everybody's sort of gone, and like Daphne and Fred, like literally Daphne has a show like Coast to Coast Mystery Hour kind of thing like that, and Fred's like her all in one, like, camera boy, producer, so on. And then it's like, it's like, well, whatever the Shaggy and Scooby, it's just like they got just the most shittiest like minimum wage job, just like at like airport security. They literally have your dad walks up to them to yell at them that they're not doing a good enough job. I was like, dude, there's Jim right there in like animated form.
I didn't fucking think that's a good fucking point. Yeah, no wonder I got flashbacks. Like, mowed the lawn wrong. Fuck.
And then I just love how like it's one of those ones where they're just like, oh no man, this job's where it's at. Like we can literally just like go through people's shit and take out every food item that they've brought from another country and just store it in our contraband room.
When you think about them, like that job is like, it's a good thing they kind of got pulled back into the mystery game when they did. Because if they kept on doing that job, they wouldn't have done, like, if they were able to just be good enough to keep doing that for a little while, they would have, like, as soon as 9/11 happened, be like, oh, fuck, man. I was too busy, like, stealing like confiscating the baklava. I didn't think to check the rest of the bag, so it's like...
I just picture them being like one of these straight-to-video movies, Scooby Doo on 9/11, like the TSA member or whatnot, and then somehow, some way, they get whipped into the plane, and it's up to Scooby and Shaggy to stop the terrorists.
Oh my god! I didn't mean for it to go that far. No, yeah, I think the middle ground is Scooby Doo and Shaggy, Guantanamo, like the ghost of Guantanamo Bay. I don't know. Fuck.
I know, it's that thing. It's that funny thing too, where it's like that pre 9/11 airport area where it's just like, oh yeah, there's a whole lot of freedom here. Nobody cares. It's an airport. It's like a party.
Yeah. Look at beep, right, just go through again. Beep, fuck it. Just get the fuck out of here. Go.
George Milford. He's literally doing cocaine right off, like, the luggage. Nobody cares.
Yeah. Captains are, whoa, let's go.
Yeah.
Happy flights. But now it's like, so they got back into the game at a good time, because if they just went a few more years of that, like,
that job was going to get terrible real fast.
Because I will say, not to get too hung up on this, but there was that point, like, after, like, younger folks may not remember this or even know, or we're not even born for it, but there was that point, like those few years after 9/11, where they're suddenly like very jittery, like, go do it again, go do it again. What, did you skip that line? Like, no, I didn't skip that line. What are you doing right here? I didn't skip the line. Oh, the thing was open over here, so I came this way. You gotta do it again. Fuck, and then it's just like, oh, okay. Now there's a point where we got it down. We're good this way. But there was those like 2001 to like 2003, where they were just like on edge the whole fucking time, Well,
that's why I always like to make the joke, because I'm like, I literally haven't been on an airplane since before 9/11. Like that, like that's how long it's been. Like there's a complete, I could still smuggle a knife on board with my Wishbone, like, doll, and no one was going to say anything.
And you're bringing a knife inside the Wishbone doll.
Well, I had my backpack, and I had my like Swiss Army knife, and there was like a Scooby Doo coloring book and like a Wishbone stuffed animal, and just like, I remember just like the guys, like, because I would always get searched every time I've ever been on a plane. I've always been searched as like a child, and they would literally go through, and the guys like pulling out, it's like coloring book, Wishbone, like all this stuff, like, whatever, go on ahead. And like, you didn't find my knife, dude. Look at that. I was pretty sneaky on there.
I had I would always get picked when they're going through the x-ray thing, where I had like this like accordion case of CDs, and every time it got through there, they'd stop, like, yeah, you get the walkie-talkie, you see them doing this shit, and you're like, fuck, like, sir, right over here, young man. Yeah. Put in the gloves. Like, did you pack this yourself? Like, I'm like, oh shit, am I gonna get fucking cavity search right here? Like, bend over. They're going through the thing. Like,
he's looking like, Rage Against the Machine. Are you referring to me as the machine? Do I look like the machine to you, son? You know what? You're in America. You better be damn proud of it. You're like, I just like Rage Machine. It's actually all American if you'd listen to it.
They just look at it. They just you open it up, like, oh, please land on a country album or something. So let me go by. Yes, I support the troops. No, they get through on there. Like, it was they actually soon they realized it was a CD case. Like, oh
boy, we look like fucking mooks.
Yeah. No, it would be like that every fucking time. Like every time I brought back when you have the Walkman and the accordion case of CDs, they'd always assumed it, because it was a cylinder one. So they'd be like, what the fuck is this? So, but
it probably looks really weird on like the X-ray. That's probably what happens. If you're like, it probably looks like some type of bomb.
Yeah, like three guys and like come down on cords out of nowhere, like, down. You want the Batman shirt on the fucking ground, so.
One of those.
But yeah, Scooby Doo. Yeah, so if they kept up that job that much longer, who knows what would have happened.
And then, Velma also too. It makes you just wonder. It's like, did nobody ever ask Scooby and Velma and Shaggy? They're like, no, sorry, we don't need the goofball team. This is for the good-looking people that are going to be on TV. You guys kind of do your thing. Go run your bookshop, Velma.
Well, I get
know your role.
I'll be 100% honest. I get, yeah. Well, here on that note, I am one of those people. I always preferred Velma over Daphne, but at the exact same time, you think that they would have got her just because. Well, shit, we need like a producer. We need someone to do the research. We need someone to actually look more into this kind of thing, So you think Velma would come along with them. Scooby and Shaggy, I get, I get why. It's like, guys, what's going to happen is there's always a crafts table service. You guys always got to do your fucking thing. Somehow it pans out when we're like in an abandoned warehouse or like a mansion, but not here, guys. Not here. We're trying to fucking work.
Yeah, like literally, you've blown the budget way too many times. It's like, I'm assuming there was probably a moment where they're like, let's try this out, It would almost make more sense, I feel like, if almost even Fred sort of split. So like they were all completely on their own thing, except for Scooby and Shaggy, of course. And then they had to get kind of back together, you know. But that probably would have added an extra 5 minutes because you have to go, well, what's Fred doing? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I don't even know what Fred would be doing. Would he just be doing like, I don't know, just like personal trainer or some shit like that, you know?
Well, I feel like Fred would, he would definitely probably end up having like kind of like, if he got like the regular job, he probably would have somewhat like the somewhat good, you know, like not maybe not a great job, but like one of those ones where it's like, oh, you know, I'm a financial investor, or, you know, I'm working here at this bank and doing loans for people and stuff like that. I feel like I picture him doing something like that.
Probably something like that. Yeah. No, it's one of those things where with, cause you think about it, well, it also does the thing, because before there's that point where, I mean, it happens in like, I feel like it happens a lot where they do the thing like now they hate each other, now they're over each other, but something that really sticks out is like, oh no, they're very wholesome. They genuinely care and love each other. So when they get back together, it's not like this whole like, oh, we left on bad terms, like it is in the first live action movie or something.
Yeah.
And we're half the movie, they're at each other's throats. Where in this, it's like, oh no, they kind of like they miss each other, and it's not like they stopped because they got tired of each other. They just got tired of the work.
Yeah, no, yeah, they just all needed to kind of go their separate ways for a bit. But yeah, I like how it does that. There's no like animosity. Yeah, nobody's angry at each other. They just get back together. It's like almost like, oh, sweet, it's been 10 years. Like, what a great reunion kind of thing. You know, I think that's just kind of a cool way that it goes about it, so that they're like, hey, let's go out. You know, we're going to go find some real ghosts and so on like that. You know, let's go to Louisiana.
Well, there is that whole part where like they even they do the thing where they make you think like they bring in the different suspects, and I was remembering the characters, the way they looked. I mean, I was remembering, oh yeah, that character as they came up, but I wasn't remembering all their roles exactly. I knew the guy who was actually like the agent. I knew that he wasn't going to be a bad guy, because sometimes there's a thing where they try too hard to make someone seem shady or like too much of an asshole right off the bat. They let you know they're not the bad guy because they're trying too hard to do that, you know. Where the girl, I was like, I don't remember. I can kind of see her going either way, which that's what they do. When then there's, of course, there's like the snobby, like, you know, and like there's all the cats. So I'm like, oh, right, all the cats, but I forgot they turn into cats, of course, you know.
Yeah, so you kind of get all that stuff there, you know, and then you know the other one too is like then there's like the Bayou like ferryman guy.
Oh yeah, like,
you know, the Asian guy. Yeah, there's that guy's like, I turn a big old cat boy, you know, I hate them dogs.
Yeah, I forgot about Well, that guy. Well, the thing is, it's not just enough that they turn. There's like monsters in it. It's the fact that the monsters actually are out to kill, and they actually die by the end. That's the thing that kind of adds that other level of like what we weren't used to seeing in Scooby Doo. When they have the flashback of when, because really at first the cat people, they don't seem like they're initially in the wrong when they have the flashback, but they get that. I guess they just liked eternal immortal life, and as long as you kept on killing, you kept on getting to live forever or something to that effect. And so when you first see, you totally get why they kill the pirates, because even the way they do it, it's violent. The pirates come in, they corral all these people into like the water, and the gators are all like, oh fuck, lunchtime, you know.
But let's be honest, there was probably a pre-scene before they got to that point, because pirates land on there and be like, it's been 6 months. I've only fucked Tommy Bob over here. I'm ready to get my dick wet. Murder and rape. High five. Because that's just like the way they look. It's like they just like walk in there just totally like, oh god, these guys have been at sea way too long. They didn't get the Mutiny on the Bounty treatment. No.
Yeah, there's probably like, you know, like 45 minutes they cut out.
Yeah. Once again, if this was one of those like hard rated R movies, like that's what it would have been. They would have been like, oh shit, there's this like brutal pirate scene and like halfway into this film.
Well, and there's that whole part, because you kind of forget, like, man, they didn't do this in the show. You know? And even like when they initially come into like some of the zombies, like, yeah, I know there's no blood. Yeah, I know you don't see organs or anything like that. But some of the ways they go about it, it was just like when they're trying to pull like the mask off the one, like the mask is really good. It pulls off. It's like the head, and they've realized right there, and like it stops being. They're doing a little bit of the hot potato thing for a second, so it's a little funny. But then like it becomes like, dude, let's just get the fuck out of here, you know?
Yeah, well, that's what I like about it, is like it still does have like that violence and everything like that, and I feel like your brain kind of fills in like the gore for like, you know, what needs to be censored to keep it at like a PG level. But like when you see it, you're like, that's legitimately like Fred just ripped his zombie's head off.
Yeah, and that's not me being like, man, why is a Scooby Doo movie so soft? I mean, I'm surprised. I'm just surprised it went as hard as it did. That's all I'm saying. You know, it's especially, I mean, by now, it's not like, you know, anything that's too crazy. Before, we were used to at the time and what Scooby Doo was before this. Like, I think this is probably how you kind of get to more like that DC comic, Scooby Doo Apocalypse, or other things to that effect as it goes on, you know?
Yeah, well, that was kind of the cool thing about that era of comics when DC for a moment was like, let's bring back all the Hanna-Barbera stuff, but like we know that our audience who's into this is, you know, like 30 and above, so we'll just keep it at that about level. And it's kind of funny because like on Scooby-Doo stuff, like this one here still almost like is kind of the as far as animated stuff goes, it kind of is the most adult one kind of around, because the next couple movies past it kind of kept that, but once the 2000s kind of came in, they started kind of going back a little bit more to not too much, but just tone back to go kind of more Scooby-Doo Where Are You like level.
Well, I don't know if we're not gonna. I don't think we're gonna do it for this year, so we can probably talk about a little bit. But I'm noticing the parallels. I remember the second movie more than this one, but the parallels of kind of like the person they're working with the whole time. That was something that actually caught me off guard with the second movie, with the witch's ghost or whatever, because the whole time just like, oh yeah, like they come across some philosopher guy, and I think he has the hots for Velma or something to that effect, and they're like, yeah, they keep on saying that my, you know, great grandmother or whatever, my great grandmother or whatever was a witch when she wasn't. I'm trying to like prove it to them, and then when they're trying to solve this mystery, there's like a witch going around like attacking people, and then it ends up being like, oh, it is just some other asshole in a costume, and you find out it's all the people in the village or the town. It's like somewhere in Salem or some Salem-like town doing this shit. And then they get across the book, and then like, okay, cool. All right, yeah, so we solved the mystery. It was just a bunch of assholes trying to like keep rumors going, and we got the book. He says, like, all right, yeah, we got the book. By the way, I fucking lied. See this thing? This is some Evil Dead shit. My great grandma was a witch. Fuck you, you know, like flips it open, and then like Evil Dead shit starts to happen. So I'm like, oh, that kind of, now I'm thinking back, that kind of, they follow this kind of the same formula, only they actually do for a minute do the Scooby-Doo thing you think they're going to do, but then it flips it on its side again, you know?
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, is like they were doing some good twists, especially for back in the day, like when, you know, you just weren't used to that nearly as much, because, you know, even like the 80s Scooby-Doo stuff, like Reluctant Werewolf and so on, you knew straight off the bat, like, oh, Scooby-Doo's going to go, you know, Transylvania practically, and, you know, he's going to have all these like encounters of monsters, and it just was kind of normal, you know, that they just like that kind of comes together there, where like in this one does have like the twist, same with like the witch's ghost and everything like that. And I haven't like how there is the guy that like almost feels like he would twist into something, but he doesn't really. There's like the Fuzzy Lumpkins like guy who's out in the bayou being like, I don't like them tourists coming around my Mark. Yeah, it's played by Mark Hamill, which is almost really funny. You know, but just like there's that guy that you always because I couldn't even remember when I watched the game, like, does that guy turn into a cat too? Like, oh no, he doesn't. He's just trying to catch the big like catfish out there that always eludes him.
He seems like someone who's come in with like a shotgun and just like, you know, blow one of the cat people. Like if this movie went on for like another 20 minutes and was rated R, like right as they're about to get caught or attacked, like he comes with a shotgun, like, I fucking hate pussy, you know, and just like blows a few of them away or something.
Out of my way, pussy. Get that bayou pussy out of here. He just got like a term for it all. They're one of them hot pepper pussies.
All right, okay. He's got the gun. I'm not going to argue with him.
Oh, they're one of them gray coat pussies.
Should we? Don't ask. Just go. Just be happy he's on our side for now. Oh, you're one of them neckerchief pussies. Like, oh shit, Fred, he's looking at you.
Yeah, ascot wearing pussy. And even does It does one of those things too, where Fred, like when they're getting ready for dinner and whatnot, and Fred puts the ascot on, and then it's like they do that one of those. Sometimes those are those kind of moments that like I'm always kind of iffy about when they do them and stuff. Where he puts it on, it's like, nah, but at least doesn't do it like where he like throws it out like this was the stupidest idea ever. He just says, no, not tonight, in a sense, where he doesn't have his original kind of look.
Well, it also makes sense because they need that for the voodoo doll later. Yeah. So it's kind of like it's part of the story. It's not like here's this thing I'm super known for and be like, why the fuck would you ever do that? You know, like oh, you mean the thing the tagline or the trademark thing this character or franchise is known for? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like Johnny Depp and Lone Ranger, like oh, never again. Like no. No, he that's what he says. Don't you ever say what he can't say.
Yeah, so it's like
Johnny Depp brown facing it anyways.
What was that?
Johnny Depp brown facing it.
Yeah, brown facing it, telling him like, dude, you should.
I guess you could say it red facing it. That sounds kind of racist though.
Either way, Johnny Depp going with a spray on tan.
Yeah, so you know, but yeah, but I will say at the same time, I do like the outfits that they have in this one. They do have kind of neat outfits that kind of work in a way where, I guess it's that kind of thing where it does kind of mock. Because that's the thing is like Shaggy really has like a definitive look that like that look, you know, it's that weird one that like almost if you didn't know that character was from the 60s, I don't think there's really too much stuff that says like, man, that guy's screaming 60s. You know what I mean? He really looks like Shaggy looks like he could have came out of the 80s. Like if he was at like some kind of alternative concert, he could have came out of the 90s at like a grunge rock show or punk rock even 2000s. He fits it like that look is almost like very like timeless.
He could kind of like just snap in anywhere. I think Velma, I think is still dressed the same, but I also see, because, you know, she's just like, she's happy just staying indoors, reading a book. She's not looking to go out and impress nobody. I mean, she could if she wanted to, but she doesn't need to. She's happy just being kind of like, you know, to herself. Where Fred and Daphne seem like people that like, well, we got to look trendy. We got meetings. We got to look the part, you know?
Yeah. No. Well, and it's like one of those ones too. It's like really because Velma's costume actually is kind of like Fred's is the only one that you'd really say. Well, Fred and Daphne's are the only two costumes that really like that kind of says like, oh, that does have that swinging 60s look to it, you know. Where even Velma's doesn't really have that. That just kind of looks like what's she wearing? She's wearing a sweater and a miniskirt. I guess the miniskirt might be kind of that, but you know, beyond that, like that looks kind of like an outfit you could kind of see anywhere.
I can see. I mean, well, I think now if you were to see Fred, I think it's the thing that makes Fred a likable character is he's totally kind of like the jock, but the very lovable, very kind-hearted jock. And I think that's the thing about the group is there's such like a weird ragtag group. I mean, I see why Daphne and Fred are hanging out, but everyone else together, that combination, like maybe Velma might buy some, maybe they all might buy weed from Shaggy or something like that. But beyond that, like they all don't seem like a group that all hang out together. And that's the thing that kind of, I think, makes that whole dynamic stand out. Everybody has that character they kind of relate to one way or the other. And I think if you were to do Fred now, I mean, I didn't see the Velma show. They apparently make him like the prissy, rich, entitled kid or something.
Yeah, but that Velma show just sounds stupid all around. I mean, I haven't watched it, but it just, to me, it feels like
it doesn't look good.
It just, well, I didn't like the way the animation looked. That a lot of times is what will turn me off from something, is if the animation looks weird. Once again, going back to like my kidness, like the animation looks often weird. I don't know if I like it. The
thing that kind of pushed me about it is it was doing that thing where it was very much doing the thing where we're making fun of the original source material. We don't really give a shit about it, and it was apparently something where they originally had a concept for another show for like just a fucked up like high school mystery show, but then like no one's gonna make it Scooby Doo, and that way we'll get people who give a shit about it. So that was kind of the thing. They'd be like, well, I don't care. But
since you mentioned that, like, it goes with another show thing. Apparently, this Scooby Doo one was originally, it was a SWAT Cats episode that they had laying around that they just reconverted it around to make it into the. I mean, it probably changed more than, like, it wasn't just like
how the fuck the SWAT Cats like, all right, man, we're just gonna fly our jet over to New Orleans. What, zombies? I mean, that's a big fucking step. I mean, SWAT Cats is one of those shows that was like, it was also one of those shows that was pretty dark and pretty violent for the time. But New Orleans SWAT Cats to
I felt like I wanted more context on that too. Like that's all. It was just one of those like tidbit things where it's just like, oh, by the way, Timmy over here has
people in it, but I mean,
there's cats. I think it was one of those ones where they like, it sounded like almost like just in the brief thing it said, it's like that maybe they landed on an island and there was these people that transformed into monster kind of thing. Like, probably like the basis of it might have been something of that kind of type, and then they added more Scooby Doo. This made it more horror. I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, that's still like a weird one. I guess it'd be even weirder if it was like, well, it was a Space Ghost episode that they decided to convert into a Scooby Doo one.
Tears of the Sun was originally going to be a Die Hard movie somehow, which it's like this super intense like war film set in Africa, I think, and it's just like, what was John McClane doing in fucking Africa, So it's like, but like,
I was gonna say, speaking of Die Hard factoids, there's actually an original Die Hard movie, and it's a Frank Sinatra film.
Yeah, well, it's because Die Hard was based on
a book or whatever.
Well, the second Die Hard is based on Die Hard itself is based on the second book on a book series of this character. I don't think it's called John McClane, but basically the Frank Sinatra thing. And I think the thing it has in common with is it's in a tower on Christmas. I think that's what it has in common with it. I really don't know what, and it follows the similar beats. I'm kind of curious to read that because I read.
Yeah, I heard that thing too, and I was like, well, that's just an interesting factoid, just to like with it, because I like also too is that they were originally considering like, we're gonna get Frank to come back to do a sequel to, I can't remember what his movie was. It has like a real like basic action movie name, but they're like, we're gonna get him back. But I just pictured then I started thinking like old Frank Sinatra, just like in the exact same things that Bruce Willis is doing in that movie.
Coming in like shirtless, like, God damn it, let me just all fucking just like waddling out like fucking
no shoes on.
The gun taped to his back, like can't even reach his fucking back. Like, God damn.
Like, I almost want to see the old Frank Sinatra do that. Like, exact same movie. He has to do everything the same way that Bruce Willis did, but instead it's Frank Sinatra.
Has like a fucking wife in her like late 30s, and he's still like, God damn it, woman, I'm a fucking cop. Like, geez, Frank, you don't have to go that hard. That's how we did it in my day.
Oh, yeah. Interesting kind of character change. Actually, speaking of another one, going back to Scooby Doo, is something that's kind of neat, I will say, in some of like the later day Scooby Doo movies, though. What I kind of like what they do with Fred is because really, like, Fred, like in the 60s version, he is like the cool guy jock, like everything about that time period he is. But they kind of do it like as it goes on. I like how they make him more almost like the Golden Boy Scout guy, because it's like it's in the Kiss movie with Scooby Doo. It's like Daphne's really into Kiss. I think Velma is too, and everybody else. And Fred just has that like, oh, come on, guys. Like, what about like this, surf rock band? That's really where the real tunes are at. Like, so he has like this like. I can't remember what it's like. Whatever it is, he says it's like hilarious. It's just the way
a rousing show. The encore went until 8:30 at night, and we all like calmly got in our cars and drove home, like that kind of shit.
Yeah, like pretty much like that. And I just kind of like that. I think that's the sort of the way they go about it. They make him kind of like almost feel like the older soul character in the long run.
That makes sense for Fred. I think that, if you do him today, like, and I kind of derailed us there for a minute, but like, I think that Fred, like, you could still make him like like the jock, but he's also kind of like a good guy. Cause I think that younger generation, it's a little bit more spread out. It's not like you're one of these things, you know what I mean? So I think that you probably could like if you were to do Fred again, you probably still even could fit in the ascot, but it wouldn't be that. It'd be like a bandana, it'd be kind of like a hipstery type thing or something like that. Maybe even, I don't know.
Yeah, sometimes I'll wear an ascot just because Fred wears it because I'm like, that's cool. Nobody else.
Fred does it.
Yeah, Christopher Walken wears one in
Seven Psychopaths.
Seven Psychopaths as well too. You know, he's got a reason to wear it.
He's like, and he just gives it to Woody Harrelson. He has a big slash. He's like, take it. He's like the fucking scar. Don't you fucking cravat, man.
I feel it's like one of those ones. I'm like, you never see anybody wear an ascot anymore, so it feels kind of cool to wear one because then people also kind of look at you too. Almost like, oh, that's different. I don't know because most people don't even know what the word is. To tell you the truth, they just know that something's different there. Is he trying to be a cowboy? Is that no? It's rolled up differently.
How it's tucked in, like it's one of those things. Like it's how it's like it could look like. I think that if you wear it to the point where it's around your neck and puffed away, Christopher Walken was. You have to be a certain age, or you have to be like you really have to pull it off. Christopher Walken pulled it off.
Yeah,
Christopher Walken. But that is really hard to do. If you wear kind of like a bandana, well, I mean, that could be hard too, but I think it's kind of easier depending on how you look, you know?
Mm-hmm. So, it's like you got to do it because you can't have it with like where it looks like you got the bandana on backwards, like, you know, like you're going to spin this around when you need to rob the place. But it's like that thing, like you got to get it kind of right where it does have that ascot kind of look, but it works well if you got like the right like button up t-shirt and everything like that. If you want to have like old school, like 60s class look.
Just going to the Beach Boys reunion concert later. Yeah.
Yeah. One of those ones. Go get my surf rock on.
No, like I think that, yeah, that's a hard, I just think of the line in like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, like the only mystery here is why we take our cues from a dick and a neckerchief.
That's almost one of the best like live action Scooby Doo moments.
Well, apparently, I think they try to get Freddie Prinze Jr. They try to get like all the cast members from live action one to come in and do those parts. But we're like, dude, we can get fired if we come in and do your R-rated like fucked up version of this.
Well, it's funny too because like Matthew Lillard, which is kind of cool, is that he still plays Shaggy to this day. Like he literally has done the voice of Shaggy for like the last 20 plus years, ever since that movie.
I think Scoob, which I didn't even see Scoob, but I think Scoob is the first one where he hasn't voiced Shaggy in like however, like years, I think.
Well, and Scoob's
other than the new show.
Yeah, because I saw Scoob and, you know, it was one of those ones like, okay, it's CG, I'll give it a go and whatnot like that. And I'll say it does have some interesting stuff going with it. It's definitely trying to do the Hanna-Barbera. It was like trying to go for like the Hanna-Barbera, like in a sense, Avengers, Justice League kind of feel where like we're going to cross universes here and so on, which was kind of cool if you like some of that Hanna-Barbera stuff. One thing I just didn't like about it is like they made Shaggy out like he was just like some whiny little bitch that like had no friends and whatnot. And when Scooby-Doo got popular and became like a celebrity, you know, Shaggy's doing that thing like, fuck you, man. Like, you think you're better than me? Like, you're my only friend I got and you just leave me like that? Like, I got nowhere to go. I'm like, dude, that's not Shaggy.
You're a fucking pussy, Frankie.
Yeah. I'm like, dude, to me, Shaggy feels like he's that guy that like if Shaggy's in school, he's the dude who could walk to anybody's group and he's like best buds with everybody. That's who Shaggy is. He's not the loner, like doesn't have a friend, he makes a friend of a dog that talks. Like, no, that's not. No, that was. I remember that part just like it sat with me. I'm like, that bothered me so much. I'm like, sometimes it's that thing. It's like, I hate when people sometimes get cute and they think they're gonna put like a twist. I'm like, no. This show has been around longer than you've probably been alive. Do not think that you can put some special little twist in there to try to put your own, you know, problems that you had growing up in. Shaggy's not your like, you know, avatar character to release that on. Like, you know, that's who Shaggy is. He reminds me, he's just the cool guy that like everybody's like, dude, that guy's awesome. What's he do? I don't know, but dude, he's an awesome fella. The nicest guy ever, you know. I wouldn't hire him to work, but
well, even going back to the movie, to them getting the job at like TSA for a second, like if you think about it, like, oh wait, who are you hiring? Oh shit, these guys are famous. They went all over the whole country, like solving like mysteries and shit. These guys want to work at the TSA. Oh, this is gonna be so fun. Yes, get those guys without realizing like, oh no, these are the guys that kind of like stumble into winning. It's everyone else who actually does the real work.
Yeah, exactly. They're just the mascot characters.
Yeah, some like Shaggy never drives. Shaggy's never good enough to drive. Come on, what the fuck?
Well, literally, he gets the van stuck in the mud in Zombie Island. When they're out there just eating crawfish like it's going out of style.
Yeah,
they're having their own personal like crawfish genocide in the back of the van.
Well, they have like a crawfish holocaust, and then they're just like, God, they're gonna have such violent shits between all like the Carolina Reapers they're eating, combined with all the crawfish, just violent like
gumbo and all that stuff,
Yeah.
Though I picture Shaggy and Scooby must have the most iron, like their stomach has like evolved past everybody else's.
Well, there's that part where they just suddenly like they get through all the food, like, hey man, we saved you a gorgonzola if you want. They're just like fucking like beach balls.
And then I love because your dad just looks, he's like, you guys are a couple of gorgonzolas.
My dad, like Hanna-Barbera called him, like, hey Jim, you want to roll by for a Scooby Doo cartoon? Like, yeah, I guess,
Well, we're gonna get our Japanese studio to motion capture you for the animation.
He just grunts. All right. That means yes.
I also gotta say, I love the name of the Japanese company that animated this thing, because this apparently was like one of the first times that they kind of had a big Japanese company that did it. Which this Japanese company also did Real Adventures, Johnny Quest, SWAT Cats, and a couple other of those like '90s Hanna-Barbera stuff. But their company name is Mook, which just feels like some guy in New Jersey named that for him. We say that to a bunch of mooks over on the other side of the pond.
Just it's not the first like.
It probably means something else. In Japan, it's probably one of those ones where it meant something else. But just over here, it just feels like one of the mooks over there. Huh? Yeah, I saw. Yeah, they what they do? Street sharks? Yeah, it sounds about right.
It's a line of it's a line of endearment. That's what it means. Okay. In Japanese. Shit like that.
It's actually technically, they did a lot of cool stuff though. I mean, like they pretty much like they did like, do you remember like the 90s and 2000s? Well, guess what? We did all kinds of stuff. The Men in Black show, X-Men Evolution, Spawn, then even other weird ones like Biker Mice from Mars, Jesus. Beverly Hills Teens.
He was like the Wish Kid. Like, oh fuck, I forgot about that. I mean,
they also did Stripperella.
Stripperella, paycheck's a paycheck.
I feel like that's one stands like, you know what? Fuck you guys. I always want to be Hugh Hefner. I don't know what you guys are complaining about.
By then, like, I mean, granted, I mean, he had a hand, and there's like people question how much Stan really contributed, because a lot of his most long-lasting characters is when he was working with like Steve Ditko or Jack Kirby, like the ones that really stood the test of time. So people sometimes wonder. So I'm just wondering when there is no Steve Ditko or Jack Kirby, do you just get like, yeah, so she's got fat titties?
Come on, Pam, throw your ideas in too. You're a creative person, right?
Yeah. So, like, I mean, I'm not saying he didn't do anything at all. I'm not saying he's not but at the exact same time, though, I'm just like, it's just kind of funny. Plus, when you're that old, like, you know what? My name is on, like, you know what, True Believers? My name's like nearly everything Marvel, so fuck you. I'm going to make what I want. I made Spider-Man to work up to Stripperella, all right? When I first walked in and, like, worked on my first issue of Captain America and worked on my first issue of Fantastic Four, I was thinking, it's only a matter of time before I make my fucking fat-titted superhero.
Yeah, I feel like it's like when you're 80 years old, I feel like, yeah, fucking hey, do what you want, like...
I told Jack, goddammit, like, Jack, goddammit, make Sue Storm's tits fucking huge. And then like, fucking comic book codes come in, like, you sons of bitches. All right, fine. One day, though, they get a call from Spike TV. I'm like, yeah.
Stand a man here.
I'm hard and ready to go. I got some fucking ideas.
Literally, I got 3 hands to write. How do you think I turned out all those like Marvel comics back in the 60s? Stand the man 3 hand.
No, I got a show and go right between Afro Samurai and your like right-wing animated sitcom that comes on at 9. Okay, I got the perfect thing for it.
You're gonna love it. Kids are gonna be into it. Adults are gonna be into it. Everybody's gonna love it. Who doesn't love tits? Lesbians love tits. I know Jack Kirby would come out of the grave to come do this show again. Believe me. Believe me. Actually, he says he really hates you and he's sick and tired of you trying to include him and stuff. Well, yes. He said if you bring up that stripperella one more fucking time, he's gonna burn all his original artwork, and take it down with him.
I'll let him do it. I got copies. I took it all from him.
See, that's the thing, true believer. You think that Jack has the original copies? Nah, Stan the man's got the copies. Jack has the Xeroxes. But yeah, Mook.
Scooby Doo, right?
As Mook was finish up their animation, they also put together a bunch of the good Scooby Doo stuff because they literally did that one. They did Witch's Ghost. They did like the Alien Invaders and the Cyber Chase, and then that was it.
Oh, they
they did 4.
I didn't see past the second one. I got up to the second one. There's the Aliens one, and there's I guess it's one of those things like I guess it's pre creepypasta, but I never thought I found creepypasta scary but like it's hard. I find when you try to like it's scary and it's the internet or it's a haunted game cartridge. Like I always have trouble like
dot hack stuff.
Like I always find even like dot hack, like that's not even, I mean, I guess it has elements of horror, but I guess I'm thinking of like whenever they try to bring in, like I remember seeing an ad for the cyberspace ghost thing, and I guess really internet's everywhere, so maybe there is a way to do it. Whenever they try to build like a horror story around like the internet's haunted, whatever the fuck, I just can't take it. Like, sure, okay.
Well, keep in mind that one came out Y2K 2000, so
so if it's some shit like
it makes like logical sense why they chose that then,
Oh, like Zoinks, man, he's gonna set off all the fucking nukes, like that kind of like that like Y2K fear they had. Like maybe that case.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I feel like that's what they were running with on that one there. It's actually mind blowing how many Scooby Doo movies there is. Though. I think for every DCU movie that comes out, they probably make like 2 Scooby Doo ones. It seems like.
Well, they probably have like a head start on them because they never stopped making them. Maybe there have been breaks for them because I remember just seeing them like in stores, like on shelves or whatever, just of whatever new. Like, plus they reached that point where they weren't even. I mean, yeah, sure, a kid could probably watch it, but they would just like, you know what, people feeling nostalgic, people in their like 20s and 30s who grew up on Cartoon Network are feeling nostalgic. So, okay, Scooby-Doo meet Kiss. Okay, Scooby-Doo meet, I think there's another metal one. Maybe there's definitely a Scooby-Doo WWE one.
Yeah, there's Scooby-Doo WWE ones, which those ones are cool if you like wrestling. There's the Scooby-Doo, there's actually the one that it's kind of the dark one. There's a Scooby-Doo meets Supernatural.
Oh, really? Okay.
So they did one of those.
That makes sense. I mean, I never watched Supernatural.
Yeah, I never did either. So like it didn't. But I think Laura watched that and she said it was actually quite darker too. I was just like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, so it was more almost in line of Supernatural than it was in like Scooby Doo tone, I guess you would say. Like, and I think it came out like differently. Like it came out almost like an episode of Supernatural or somewhere else. It wasn't like it came in the kids section, Kind of like Batman the Killing Joke, like right there. Like
I was just about to say, like, what if they did like something kind of like they did like another like, okay, Batman and Scooby Doo again, but it's not like the Adam Westy type shit or the Brave and the Bold Scooby Doo. It's like more like the Killing Joke, like, oh shit, man, she got shot in the fucking spine, like, well, what kind of crazy spook are we going after today, Batman? Going after a man called the Flamingo. He cuts the faces off women and eats them raw. Like, holy shit, like that kind of thing. It's like you're just kind of like, just like one of those villains that like, oh yeah, that wasn't in 66, was it?
Yeah, Scooby-Doo meets Professor Pig. Yeah,
and he's doing like Jeffrey Dahmer shit.
Yeah. No, but it's actually kind of just mind-blowing. Like, I think I will say that probably since Zombie Island, there's at least over 50 plus Scooby-Doo movies that have come out. So like, it's like they just pump them out. Like, I mean, like And granted, it's like there's got to be somebody out there that the Scooby Doo. I mean, I love Scooby Doo, but like there's got to be somebody out there that like that's their main jam. You know, I mean, Scooby Doo to them is like what Star Wars is, and Lord of the Rings and stuff like that is to other people. There's got to be somebody out there that they live and breathe that, like it's Ninja Turtles or something. You know,
well, I think it's always just like you said, like it's kind of timeless in some ways. I mean, there's some things very about it that are very 60s, but there's always going to be kind of like there's so many versions of it that I think you just pull it on for kids and you get used to it. It's like Ninja Turtles in that way, like Ninja Turtles or Marvel. Mario's been fairly consistent. It's been changed, but I think there's always something that a kid can jump onto and hold on to some version of it, you know?
Yeah.
I think when it comes to things that kind of like you can kind of go back to and enjoy, I think sometimes video games, like it's easier, I think, to still kind of like a childish looking video game, like say Mario Brothers or something, because it's more interactive, where story-wise it's a little harder to pull off. But I think if you can kind of keep up with the audience in some way and age with the audience in some way, that can like have more longevity.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that's kind of like the case too, you know. And I think it's
a Mario and Sonic shit behind him, you know. But,
yeah. But it is one of those ones that's like with Scooby Doo. It's like, you could probably pick up just about any random one you saw at the store, and they're all like decent enough. You know what I mean? Some better than others, of course. You know, but like they're still always fun. You know, it's got the Scooby Doo-ness that you always like about it, and so on like that. You know, it's just like the way that, and you know, the other show that was actually really good too was I think it's What's New Scooby Doo, the one that came out in 2000s, kind of in that like really good era of cartoons as well as that 2000 section. It's kind of like the forgotten part, but that's where like, you know, just like the TMNT one, just like, you know, X-Men Evolution. It's like there was a good run of cartoons throughout that era as well too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's kind of like the last era of like good animation, because the animation just starts to peter off, you know, as the late 2000s comes on.
I wouldn't say animation's petered off. Like I think animation.
Oh, I was gonna say
really.
It's less the hand drawn stuff and becomes more and more stuff that people start getting cheap animation and
gotcha.
You know, like very, very computer looking animation, like that kind of stuff. Like for example, like when you watch Scooby Doo on Zombie Island, like God, the animation and the backgrounds and everything like that, they're like. It's like one of those ones where you look at it and go, you just literally do not get quality like this anymore. You know, there's some shows that I see that pop on like TV, like not anything that I'd watch, but just random stuff and go, dude, I feel like we've been working way too hard our whole lives. That's all you have to do. Like that animation is just like a joke almost.
I think you can find, it probably depends on the production and all that, of course, but at the exact same time, I know what you mean, where it wasn't as like, and I guess this probably got a little extra since it was like a one movie, but I haven't seen the 2000, the What's New Scooby Doo. I haven't seen that, so I can't really speak on that one.
That one's really good.
But I know that there is that period, kind of like I don't think like I think from, I mean, like it's going to fluctuate like anything, but I guess like I'm trying to think. I feel like most animated stuff for kids this day and age probably doesn't really have. It probably has more of an anime. If it's not like. If it's not something that's made to be immediately funny, it probably has more of a anime vibe and more of an anime feel to it than say something like a Johnny Quest or Scooby Doo for that matter, you know?
Yeah. Well, a lot of times it's like what they sort of have is it's more like it's got like sort of like South Park animation in a sense, but it's not South Park. I think that's the thing. It looks even cheaper than South Park in a weird way. Like,
I mean something if it's like like not a comedy one, like more of an action focused one.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about anime or anything like that. I'm just kind of talking about like cartoon type stuff that if you flipped on Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon, you know, today, and you just sort of saw the general like kids programming, not like teens and above, but like that kind of level. I feel, I'm not saying there's probably some good ones out there too. I'm not putting that down. I'm just saying like some of them you could just kind of flip through and you just go, holy crap, that's all it takes to make. Jesus, like these kids shows are just so like that's where the gold mine really is. I think it's almost like nobody wants to do kids stuff, but it's like no, you do far less work. It doesn't have to be coherent. It's like it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like just don't swear or fuck.
Yeah, now it's basically just keeping up with meme humor today. I mean, I don't really watch a lot of just what I've seen of like, because I mean, granted, this goes back like fucking over 5 years ago, but back when I was still kind of like back when I like lived in the same county as my nephews. they would always have like, like Cartoon Network on, and it was always kind of like Teen Titans Go type humor and just very like rapid, fast. And Teen Titans Go had some good jokes in it, but it was always that very kind of like very meme, kind of like breakneck, fast paced humor. And I'm sure there's the ones that have more thought. Like I actually watched Gravity Falls from Disney Plus because everyone's been talking so much about that show. It's like, okay, this show is pretty good and pretty funny, but it has a kind of some of that design of what you're talking about, not that animation, but that kind of design. So, but there is a lot of that kind of just got to get their attention, be loud, be fast,
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. I mean, I guess cartoons have always been so. I mean, shit, Scooby Doo's probably loud for the '60s. You're like, they're always screaming and running and eating, and you're like, I don't know what's going on in this thing.
I mean, we're saying that shit now, but I guess there's also that thing of like, that's kind of, I mean, different type of animation and different, like, is it really for kids? But something like Rocko's Modern Life or like Ren and Stimpy even,
Yeah.
So
those always feel that one where like we could fit, we know who our actual target audience is, but it's going to get slid in between, kids programming.
Yeah. I mean, Rocko's Modern Life feels like something that was more of like Ren and Stimpy blatantly was not for kids, and that was like a dude's vision, and he was like a huge animation buff, and he just makes this crazy grotesque thing. It's really not for kids, but fuck it, we made it this far. And where
Attitude Era, you get away with it then.
Where Rocko's Modern Life feels like something that was not intended for children. Like he originally like had an idea for like before Comedy Central was a thing. It's like, well, where else can I take this? So, I just tone back on this, tone back on that. Sure. Okay. Yeah, sure. Have an episode where he falls right between like a giant like frog lady's tits and says, "You have comfortable breasts, ma'am." Yeah, sure. Throw it in there. Fuck it.
It's okay. But yeah, I always love going back to, this era of animation. There's so much neat stuff here to have, and this movie's just so good. I know we kind of got distracted on it, but like Scooby Doo and Zombie Island is just like, it's like solid from beginning to end. There's no lull in it. It's like the right length. It's what was it, like 75 minutes, but it still actually feels like a good hour and a half. Just because it's animation, I think more stuff gets accomplished in that shorter time. The characters are just done perfectly right. Like to me, I think it's the pinnacle Scooby-Doo movie ever made.
I think from what I've seen, it's the best Scooby-Doo movie. I agree. I think when if someone says like, show me the best Scooby-Doo thing, and it got in my head, I just immediately just go to this probably.
Yeah, because I feel if they were not going to like this one, they don't even bother with any other Scooby-Doo thing. You've lost them here. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's like, I'm very like nostalgic for something like The Reluctant Werewolf, but I know for a fact that one's not nearly as the caliber that this one is. It's 80s animation. It's a different time.
Well, it's also something the effect of this gives you all the things you think of when you think of Scooby-Doo. Then it gives you that little extra added bonus of, oh yeah, the shit is real. And then on top of that, it also gets a little heavier and darker than you expect it to.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just, to me, it's just the perfect Scooby-Doo recipe. It's like, I almost kind of wish more things stuck to this because, as I said, they kind of jump ship on some of like the later day movie stuff. They sort of jump ship on that kind of style and went back to like, oh no, let's make it like literally like we're making brand new episodes of the 68 show, which, don't get me wrong, it's fine for then, but it's just like, I like it when the stuff's real. I think that's what adds the extra level to Scooby-Doo. But yeah, good stuff there. We'll carry on with some more kind of fun horror movie type stuff going along with this. So I think Scooby-Doo is a good starting place. That gets you pumped and ready for it. And then we'll pull out some other stuff and see what we find that piques our interest. But till then, you can go to oldmanorange.com for more podcasts, comic books like Pizza Boys and Jitsu Sunrise Part 2 out right now. All our old animations, videos, what have yous. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes.
And I'm Ryan Dunnigan.
And we'll see you some other time.
Later, folks.